years before Hijra, an event occurred that had no parallel in the annals of human history. As the sun rose high above the arid lands of the Arabian Peninsula, casting golden rays upon the ancient city, a divine miracle unfolded within the walls of the Holy Kaaba, the house of Allah. On the 13th of Rajab, Fatima bint Asad, a woman of noble Qurayshi lineage and profound faith, approached the sacred sanctuary while experiencing the pangs of labor. She stood at the threshold of the Kaaba, her hands raised in desperate supplication, her voice trembling with sincerity as she cried out, "O Lord! I believe in you and the prophets who came before me. I believe in your messenger who is yet to appear. I seek refuge in you. Make this birth easy for me, for the sake of the one who built this house." In a miraculous response to her plea, the wall of the Kaaba split open before her very eyes. A bright light emanated from within, and she walked through the opening, which closed behind her. The people of Mecca, stunned and awestruck, gathered around, unable to enter, yet witnessing something divine. For 3 days, Fatima bint Asad remained inside the Kaaba. On the 4th day, she emerged carrying a newborn child, radiant as the moon, wrapped in light. His eyes sparkled with wisdom, his presence serene and majestic. That child was Ali ibn Abi Talib, a.s., the only person in history born inside the Kaaba, a sign of his unparalleled status in Islam. Ali, a.s., was born into the esteemed Hashemite clan, the son of Abu Talib, the chief of Banu Hashim and the protector of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, and Fatima bint Asad, a woman known for her piety and generosity. From a young age, Ali's, a.s., life was intertwined with the life of the final messenger of Allah. At the time of Ali's, a.s., birth, the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, was 30 years old. As poverty plagued Mecca, and Abu Talib's household grew increasingly burdened, the Prophet, PBUH, took the young Ali, a.s., under his guardianship to lessen the load. But this was not merely a gesture of kindness, it was divinely destined. The child who would one day become the first to accept Islam, the bravest defender of the faith, and the gate to the Prophet's knowledge, was raised in the lap of the Messenger himself. Ali, a.s., absorbed the Prophet's ethics, compassion, wisdom, and character like a sponge. He would later say, "I used to follow him like a young camel follows its mother. Each day he would show me a new sign of his noble character and command me to follow it." The bond between them was far deeper than that of a cousin or foster son, it was a spiritual connection, divinely nurtured for a greater mission. When the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, received the first revelation in the cave of Hira at the age of 40, he was shaken but steadfast. As he began to quietly preach the message of monotheism, he turned to those closest to him. The first male, indeed the first child altogether, was none other than Ali ibn Abi Talib, a.s., only 10 years old at the time. Despite his young age, Ali, embraced the truth of Islam without hesitation. There was no doubt, no resistance, no bargaining. He said, "I have never worshipped any but Allah, and I have never bowed to any idol." This was not a child following blindly, this was a soul illuminated by divine insight. From the very beginning, Ali, a.s., was firm in his faith, never hiding his belief, never fearing the consequences. He would accompany the Prophet, PBUH, in secret prayers in the mountains and valleys of Mecca, a silent yet steadfast supporter. When others mocked and persecuted the messenger, Ali, a.s., stood by his side with a loyalty that would never waver. When the Prophet, PBUH, received the command from Allah to publicly proclaim his message, he began with his own family. He hosted a feast, inviting the men of Banu Hashim to a meal. After they ate, the Prophet stood and delivered a powerful message. "O sons of Abdul Muttalib! I bring you the best of this world and the next. Who among you will support me in this mission, be my brother, my successor, and my inheritor?" The room fell silent. No one dared to respond. But one small voice rang out with confidence. It was Ali ibn Abi Talib, a.s., only 13 years old. He stood up and said, "O Prophet of Allah, I will support you. I will fight for you. I will be your successor." The Prophet, PBUH, smiled and declared before his family, "This is my brother, my executor, and my successor among you. Listen to him and obey him." Though many laughed at the Prophet's words, thinking Ali, as, was too young and weak, the divine plan was already in motion. The first seeds of Imamate were planted, and the promise of divine leadership was entrusted to Ali, as. As the persecution of Muslims intensified in Mecca, the Prophet, PBUH, was given divine permission to migrate to Medina. The Quraysh plotted to assassinate him that very night. 40 men from different tribes gathered outside his home, swords drawn, ready to strike at once. But Allah had a plan. The Prophet, PBUH, instructed Ali, as, to lie in his bed, covering himself with the Prophet's green cloak, to fool the assassins. Without hesitation, Ali, as, agreed. That night, knowing full well that the assassins might kill him, Ali, as, lay in the Prophet's bed, calm and fearless. The Quran would later commemorate this act in Surah Al-Baqarah. And among mankind is he who sells himself, seeking the pleasure of Allah. 2:207. It showed the depth of Ali's, love and sacrifice for the Prophet and the cause of Islam. As the Prophet, PBUH, established the Islamic State in Medina, Ali, emerged as both a mighty warrior and a beacon of knowledge. He married Fatima al-Zahra, the beloved daughter of the Prophet, and from their sacred union came Hussain, and Hussain, the leaders of the youth of paradise. Ali, was not only a husband and father, but the Prophet's most trusted companion on the battlefield and in matters of faith. In every major battle, Badr, Uhud, Karbala, Hunain, and beyond, Ali, stood at the forefront, his sword Zulfikar flashing like lightning, striking fear into the hearts of enemies. When others fled, Ali, stood firm. When the Muslims were outnumbered, Ali, brought victory through divine strength and unwavering faith. His valor at Karbala was unmatched. When the fort's gate was said to be immovable, Ali, tore it from its hinges and used it as a shield. The Prophet, PBUH, declared, "Tomorrow I will give the banner to a man who loves Allah and His Messenger, and whom Allah and His Messenger love." And the next day, he gave it to Ali, But Ali, was more than a warrior, he was the gate to the Prophet's knowledge. The Prophet, PBUH, said, "I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is its gate." Ali, possessed deep understanding of the Quran, law, theology, and ethics. His sermons, letters, and sayings, later compiled in Nahj al-Balagha, reveal a depth of intellect unmatched in Islamic history. The Prophet, PBUH, often referred to Ali, as Asadullah, the Lion of Allah. This was not only a title of bravery but a symbol of divine strength, courage, and purity. Ali, embodied all the traits of true leadership: justice, humility, wisdom, mercy, and unwavering devotion to Allah. His devotion was not worldly. He never sought power for its own sake. His nights were spent in worship, his days in service. He would break his fast with the poor, give his food in charity, and live simply despite his high status. When asked why he fought with such zeal, Ali, said, "I fight so that the word of Allah becomes supreme." Throughout the Prophet's, PBUH, mission, Ali, was his shadow, his protector, and his spiritual inheritor. The Prophet said about him, "Ali is with the truth, and the truth is with Ali." Their bond was one of divine brotherhood. On the day of Mubahala, when the Prophet was asked to bring his closest ones to invoke the curse of Allah upon liars, he brought Ali, Fatima, Hassan, and Hussain, the al-Qisa, the purified ones mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab, 33:33. The death of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, in the 11th year after Hijra, 632 CE, was not just the end of a prophetic era, it was the beginning of the most intense trial for his. While the body of the Messenger of Allah lay unburied in his home, a hurried meeting took place at Saqafa Bani Sa'ida, where power was transferred without consultation with the Ahl-e-Bait, as, or many of the closest companions. It was a moment that changed the course of Islamic history, especially from the Shia perspective. Imam Ali, as, the one declared by the Prophet, PBUH, at Badr come as his successor, was now left in the shadows. The rightful leadership, divinely mandated, was set aside by worldly politics. But Imam Ali, as, though fully aware of the injustice, did not raise his sword. Instead, he chose a path of patience, for the sake of Islam's unity and survival. Just a few months before the Prophet's death, during his farewell pilgrimage, more than 100,000 Muslims had gathered at a place called Badr. Under the blazing sun, the Prophet, PBUH, stopped the caravan, built a pulpit of camel saddles, and called the people forward. He raised the hand of Ali, as, and proclaimed, "Whoever I am his Mola, master, then Ali is his Mola. O Allah! Love those who love him, and be the enemy of those who oppose him." He then declared, "O people! I am leaving behind two weighty things, the Book of Allah and my Ahl-e-Bait. If you hold on to both, you will never go astray." The announcement was clear. The Prophet, PBUH, had appointed Ali, as the wali, imam, and spiritual authority after him. Companions congratulated Ali, as. Umar ibn al-Khattab even said, "Congratulations, O son of Abu Talib. Today you have become the Mola of every believing man and woman." Yet after the Prophet's passing, all this was ignored. As Imam Ali, as, and the family of the Prophet mourned and prepared for his burial, a political gathering unfolded at Saqafa where Abu Bakr was selected as caliph. The majority of Muslims were unaware this was happening. Even many of the Muhajirin, emigrants, and Ansar. Position of the axis in relation to the hand mill. Still, he did not fight. Instead, he remained patient. The survival of Islam was his greater concern. If he had taken up arms in a time of confusion, division could have destroyed the fragile Muslim community. Perhaps the most painful chapter in this period was the attack on the house of Fatima al-Zahra, as, the daughter of the Prophet and wife of Imam Ali, as. When Ali, as, refused to give bay'ah, allegiance, to the new leadership, Umar led a group to his home and threatened to burn it down if he did not comply. This was no idle threat. According to both Sunni and Shia sources, the door was forced open, Fatima, as, who stood behind the door, was crushed. She was pregnant at the time and later miscarried her child, Muzan. The attack left her with broken ribs and immense trauma. Ali, as, held his wife in his arms, her body wounded not only by physical force but by betrayal. Fatima, as, the beloved of the Prophet, passed away just a few months later at the age of 18, heartbroken and martyred. Imam Ali, as, buried her in the night, in an unmarked grave, a silent protest that speaks even today. Though Imam Ali, as, was kept from his rightful leadership, he did not retreat into bitterness. He turned to preserving the Quran, the Sunnah, and guiding the people spiritually. According to Shia narrations, Ali, as, compiled the Quran in its chronological order, with detailed tafsir, exegesis, and presented it to the rulers. It was rejected, not for its content, but because it came from Ali. He also began teaching quietly, answering questions, settling disputes, and raising a new generation of pious students. Though his political power was denied, his intellectual and spiritual authority only grew. Under Umar ibn al-Khattab, Ali, as, was consulted on matters of law, war, and justice. His wisdom was unmatched. Often, Umar would say, "If it weren't for Ali, Umar would have perished." Yet, despite acknowledging his knowledge, the leadership was still withheld from him. When Uthman became caliph, the corruption of the Banu Umayyah became widespread. Uthman appointed his family members to powerful positions, leading to injustice and unrest. Ali, though still in opposition to the corrupt practices, tried to advise and reform. When rebellion finally took Uthman's life, the people turned, this time, finally, to Ali ibn Abi Talib, a.s. In the year 35 AH, after Uthman's assassination, the people flooded the streets of Medina, calling out, "O Ali! No one is more worthy than you. Be our leader." But Ali, hesitated. He knew that accepting the caliphate at this point would be walking into a storm of civil strife. He said, "Leave me and seek someone else. If I respond to you, I will lead you as I see fit. But if you leave me, I will be just a helper, as I have been." He accepted, not out of desire, but out of duty. Thus began the fourth and final rightly guided caliphate, from the Shia perspective, the only caliphate that united political power with divine appointment. From the very start, Ali, implemented justice, regardless of political backlash. He removed corrupt governors, returned stolen wealth, and opened the treasury to the poor. He declared, even if the wealth was used for marriages of women or purchase of slave girls, it must be returned to the treasury. His justice was not arbitrary. It was Quranic, principled, and fearless. That is why many of the elites who benefited under previous regimes now turned against him. Rebellion began, first by Talha and Zubair, companions who sought power, and then by Aisha, the Prophet's widow. They marched to Basra and raised arms. Imam Ali, despite having every right to punish treachery, tried to avoid war. But when the Battle of Jamal, the Camel, broke out, he emerged victorious, yet he forgave all those who survived. The next major rebellion came from Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan, the governor of Syria, a cunning politician from the Umayyad clan. Under Uthman, he had amassed great wealth and power, and he refused to accept Ali's, leadership. This led to the Battle of Siffin, one of the most tragic events in early Islamic history. Imam Ali's, army, though outnumbered, was morally and spiritually superior. As victory neared, Muawiyah resorted to deception. He ordered his men to raise copies of the Quran on their spears, pretending to seek peace. Confusion spread among Ali's troops. Many refused to fight. Ali, warned them it was a trap, but he was forced to accept arbitration. This moment hurt Imam Ali, deeply. His own followers, many of whom had weak hearts and shallow understanding, disobeyed him. It was here that the Kharijites, a new group, emerged, extremists who would later turn against Ali, altogether. The Battle of Narawan saw Imam Ali, fighting the Kharijites, people who had once been his own soldiers but now declared him a disbeliever. He defeated them, but warned, "After me, you will be struck by a sword of misguidance." Ali, was weary. Not from fear or failure, but from betrayal. He had fought for truth, not for a crown. Yet at every turn, he saw power-hungry men who wore the mask of religion. Still, his sermons glowed with divine light. His nights were spent in tears and prayers. He ruled with humility, often walking the streets of Kufa alone, helping the poor, delivering food. It was the 19th night of Ramadan, and while most believers were busy in itikaf and prayer, there was one man who seemed immersed not only in the remembrance of Allah, but also in the weight of a knowledge he alone carried. That man was Ali ibn Abi Talib, the first Imam, the fourth Caliph, the Lion of Allah. He had ruled with justice unmatched by any before him and lived with a humility that confused even his closest companions. His house was small, his clothing simple, his meals barely enough to sustain a strong man. Bread made hard by time, salt, and sometimes a bit of milk. Yet this was the man whose sword had defended the Prophet, PBUH, whose knowledge was unparalleled, whose piety was unmatched, and whose only desire was to see Islam preserved in its purity. But in the final years of his life, Imam Ali, A.S., was surrounded not by faithful allies, but by the remnants of betrayal. The wounds of Siffin, Jamal, and Narawan were fresh. The rebellion of men who once stood behind him had fractured the unity of the Ummah. The very sword that defended the Prophet, PBUH, now stood as a threat to the tyrants, hypocrites, and power-hungry men who feared the light Ali, as, brought to the world. As the moon glowed above Kufa, the Imam's spirit began to prepare for what was written for him by divine decree. Among the remnants of the Kharijites, those who had rebelled against Ali, A.S., after the arbitration at Siffin, there rose a man by the name of Abd al-Rahman ibn Muljam. He was not ignorant of Ali's greatness. He had heard the sermons, seen the Imam's miracles, and even benefited from his leadership. But his heart was poisoned, not by doubt, but by the arrogance of false piety. To Ibn Muljam and his group, Ali, A.S., was a man who had allowed arbitration in the face of Quranic clarity. Their extremism blinded them from truth and justice. They plotted to kill 3 men, Ali, A.S., Muawiyah, and Amr ibn al-As, believing this would rid the Ummah of its divisions. Only one of those plans succeeded. Ibn Muljam entered Kufa and began to plan. He stayed hidden, hiding his dagger, sharpening it, and preparing for his mission. He met a woman named Kadam, whose family had been killed during the Battle of Narawan, and she promised to marry him only if he succeeded in killing Ali, A.S. It was a union born of vengeance, not love. Imam Ali, A.S., felt something different that night. As he broke his fast in the house of his daughter Kulthum, he barely touched the food. When she insisted he eat more, he gently refused. "Your father will be killed tomorrow," he whispered. His heart already carried. He walked through the streets of Kufa with his servant Kanbar, giving advice to people even in the darkness. His voice was calm, his face radiant. "Tomorrow," he said, "I shall be a guest of my Lord." He did not fear death, it was a meeting with his beloved. But what weighed on him was the condition of the Ummah he would leave behind. Before dawn on the 19th of Ramadan, Imam Ali, A.S., rose, washed himself, and dressed in clean, patched clothes. He stepped outside, where birds tried to block his path, some flying close to his chest, others chirping wildly. He looked at them and said, "These are the cries of mourning. Soon, the earth shall be dyed with the blood of its most sincere servant." He entered the masjid of Kufa, a humble yet holy place that had witnessed his sermons, prayers, and justice. As he stood to awaken the believers for dawn prayer, he approached the mihrab, bowed into sajda, and whispered to his Lord with a heart that knew it was about to depart. In that moment, as he lifted his head from the ground, Ibn Muljam struck. The poisoned sword sliced through his blessed forehead, reaching the very place the Prophet, PBUH, had once kissed. Blood poured down his face and beard. The earth trembled, the angels cried, and the skies mourned. Ali, whispered with full submission. "Fuztu wa Rabbul Kaaba, by the Lord of the Kaaba, I have succeeded." Imam Ali, A.S., was taken home by his sons, Hussain, A.S., and Hussain, A.S. His head was wrapped in cloth, but the wound was deep. The poison spread quickly. His speech became faint, but his heart remained firm. He did not curse his killer. Instead, he said, "Feed him from what you eat, give him water from what you drink, and if I live, I will deal with him with justice. If I die, strike him only once in return." This was not weakness, it was the epitome of divine justice. He would not allow even his killer to be wronged. During those final 2 nights, he gave his last will and testament, a spiritual masterpiece. He spoke to his sons, and through them, to all generations of believers. Fear Allah, and keep Allah in view in the matter of orphans. Do not allow them to starve, nor let them be lost in your presence. Be an enemy of the oppressor, and a helper to the oppressed. Organize your affairs. Enjoin good and forbid evil. And hold fast to the rope of Allah, and do not divide. He reminded them of the importance of prayer, justice, and remembering Allah in every action. As the poison took over, each of his children came to him, weeping. Kulthum, Zainab, Abbas, Hassan, and Hussain, all gathered, broken-hearted yet dignified. He blessed them all, his voice filled with both sorrow and certainty. To Imam Hassan, as, he passed the Imamate. He gave him the trust, the knowledge, and the light of guidance that he had inherited from the Prophet, PBUH. Zainab and Kulthum, he gave a final word of love, knowing what trials they would soon endure in Karbala. On the 21st of Ramadan, the Imam of the Mutakin, the pious, breathed his last. The house was drowned in tears. Even the heavens seemed to mourn. The first orphan, the first oppressed, the first Imam, was now a martyr in the house of Allah. His burial was kept secret, for fear that enemies would desecrate his grave. His sons, under the cover of night, buried him in a hidden spot. Today, that spot is Najaf, in Iraq, a holy city that millions of believers visit each year. With Imam Ali, a.s. death, the world had lost its anchor. The Prophet, PBUH, had once said, "I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is its gate." That gate was now closed in physical form, but his legacy would live forever. In his sermons, in his prayers, in his children, and in the hearts of the lovers of truth, Ali, a.s., became more alive than ever. His life was not just one of heroism, it was a life of submission, patience, sacrifice, and unwavering justice. He showed the world what it meant to live for Allah, fight for Allah, and die for Allah. The martyrdom of Ali, a.s., was not the end. It was the beginning of an eternal light that continues to guide the seekers of truth. He left behind not palaces or armies, but a legacy of divine justice that never compromised, spiritual knowledge that continues to nourish minds, moral courage that inspired revolutions. Ahl-e-Bait, a.s., whose patience and sacrifices preserved the true Islam. He was the first to believe in the Prophet, PBUH, and the last to leave this world clinging to his mission. In the words of poets and saints. Centuries later, poets, mystics, and believers still cry when his name is mentioned. Rumi called him, the king of men, and Iqbal wrote of him with awe. Hak ka waliyan main sab se afzal. Murtaza Ali, us ka naam hai. Among the protectors of truth, the highest of all, Ali, the chosen one, is his. The martyrdom of Imam Ali, a.s., was not a conclusion, it was the beginning of an eternal legacy that would illuminate the path for generations of believers. His blood had stained the mihrab of Kufa, but his words continued to echo through the hearts of the faithful. From his sermons to his wisdom, his courage to his compassion, Imam Ali's, a.s., soul was not buried in Najaf, it was spread across every corner of the world where truth, justice, and divine love were cherished. This part of the story is not merely a historical conclusion, it is a living testimony of how Imam Ali, a.s., continues to guide, teach, and inspire. His legacy is not locked in the past, but woven into the present and future of the Muslim Ummah, especially within the Shia tradition, where he is not only the first Imam, but also the mirror of the Prophet, PBUH, and the Abu al-Ima, the father of the Imams. Every one of the 12 Imams of the Shia tradition descends from him. Through Lady Fatima al-Zahra, a.s., the beloved daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, his lineage continued with the blessed Imams Hassan, a.s., Hussain, a.s., and onward to Imam al-Mahdi, a.j. Each of these Imams inherited not just his blood, but his knowledge, his courage, his faith, and his unwavering commitment to divine justice. Just as Imam Ali, A.S., stood against oppression at Jamal, Siffin, and Narawan, his son Hussain, A.S., would later stand against Yazid in Karbala, a sacrifice that shook the heavens and became the defining struggle between truth and tyranny. Ali, A.S.'s life became the blueprint for every Imam that followed, leading not with worldly power, but with spiritual authority and moral guidance. His love became a sign of faith, and his enemies a test of hypocrisy. One of the most powerful ways Imam Ali, A.S.'s legacy lives on is through his words. Decades after his martyrdom, Sharif al-Radi, a renowned Shia scholar, compiled the most profound sermons, letters, and sayings of the Imam into a collection called Naj al-Balagha, the Peak of Eloquence. This book is second only to the Quran in its depth, beauty, and spiritual guidance for millions of Shia Muslims, and even respected by Sunni scholars for its literary excellence and divine insight. In Naj al-Balagha, Imam Ali, speaks on the unity of God, the purpose of creation, the sickness of the heart, the corruption of power, the rights of the oppressed, the reality of death and the hereafter. One famous sermon is Sermon 1, which begins, "Praise be to Allah, whose praise is widespread among his creatures, whose bounties are ever prevalent among his creation." Another, Sermon 3, called the Sermon of Shakshakiyya, contains his most powerful critique of the political injustices after the Prophet's, PBUH, death. With fiery eloquence, he speaks of how his right was usurped, yet he bore it with patience, waiting for the moment when Islam was again in danger. His letters to governors like Malik al-Ashta are considered some of the earliest models of Islamic governance, showing how a ruler must care for even the poorest citizen with the same concern as a king would show his closest allies. Naj al-Balagha is not just a book, it is a living soul of the Imam, continuing to guide hearts, awaken intellects, and reform societies. The Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, said so many things about Imam Ali, A.S., that it is impossible to record them all in one place. These are not just praise, they are divine. And religious continuation of Islam. Some of the most famous sayings include, "I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is its gate. Ali is with the truth, and the truth is with Ali. Whomsoever I am his master, Mola Ali is his master. The declaration of God are come. No one loves Ali except a believer, and no one hates him except a hypocrite." These statements, preserved in both Sunni and Shia books, are spiritual signs. They are not tribal praises, they are the spiritual inheritance of Islam, through which believers are tested and guided. The event of God are come, where the Prophet, PBUH, raised Ali's, A.S., hand and declared him Mawla in front of thousands, is a cornerstone of Shia belief in the Wilaya, divinely appointed guardianship, of Ali and his descendants. In the world of Islamic spirituality, mysticism, and irfan, Imam Ali, A.S., is the fountainhead. Every major Sufi order that exists today traces its spiritual lineage, its silsila, back to Imam Ali, A.S. He is seen not only as a warrior and leader but also as the master of the inner path, batin. His sermons speak deeply of the soul's relationship with God, the veils of the ego, and the stations of nearness, qurb, to Allah. One of his most famous sayings is, "I did not see anything except that I saw Allah before it, after it, and with it." This is not philosophy, it is divine gnosis. Ali, A.S., had annihilated his ego so deeply that he saw only Allah in everything. This level of spiritual awareness, called marifa, is what true irfan is built upon. For spiritual seekers across generations, Ali, A.S., is the gate to divine secrets. As the Prophet, PBUH, said, Ali is the divider between truth and falsehood. In today's world, especially in places like the United States, where Islam is often misunderstood, Imam Ali, serves as a beacon for those seeking justice, moral clarity, and spiritual depth. He is increasingly studied in universities, spiritual circles, and even among interfaith dialogues. Western scholars like George Jordak, a Christian, wrote extensively on Ali, a.s., in his book, The Voice of Human Justice, saying, "I am overwhelmed by the personality of Ali. The more I study him, the more he astonishes me. And he possesses a unique mind, character, and spirit." Why is Ali, a.s., relevant to today's world? Because he showed how to lead without corruption. Because he defended the rights of the poor, the orphans, and the oppressed. Because he loved the truth more than power. Muslims living in the West, especially Shia Muslims in America, Imam Ali, a.s., is not just a historical figure, but a living model of how to preserve faith, stand for justice, and navigate modern challenges with divine principles. The governance style of Imam Ali, as, during his short caliphate, remains one of the most just and transparent models in all of Islamic history. He lived like the poorest of his people. Held his governors to strict ethical standards. Removed corrupt officials regardless of their political clout. Never prioritized tribal or family loyalty over truth and justice. His letter to Malik al-Ashta, when appointing him as governor of Egypt, is a charter of Islamic justice that modern human rights scholars continue to cite. In it, he says, "Let your heart be full of mercy, love, and kindness for your subjects. Do not be like a beast over them, for they are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity." This universal message is proof that Imam Ali, a.s., saw the dignity in all human beings, Muslim and non-Muslim alike, and that he governed with compassion, not tyranny. The blessed body of Imam Ali, a.s., lies in Najaf, Iraq, beneath a golden dome that shines like a sun over the desert. For centuries, lovers of Ahl-e-Bait, as, have journeyed through hardship, war, and danger to visit his grave. When pilgrims stand before his zari, they do not just weep, they speak. They speak to their Imam, for they know he hears. They ask for strength, guidance, and justice in their lives. His shrine is not a place of ritual, it is a beacon of the oppressed, a university of the spirit, and a sanctuary for the broken-hearted. Millions visit him every year, from Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, Pakistan, India, Africa, and the West. His name is on banners, in poems, on lips, and in every call for justice. Imam Ali, a.s., was more than a cousin, son-in-law, or successor of the Prophet, PBUH. He was the living embodiment of Islam. He combined all virtues, courage, wisdom, mercy, worship, and love for Allah, in perfect harmony. His martyrdom was not his end. His words, his family, his principles, and his love continue to live in the hearts of millions. For the Shia Muslims of the United States and across the world, Imam Ali, a.s., is a living guide. In times of oppression, they remember his patience. In moments of victory, they recall his humility. And in the darkness of injustice, they follow his light. Ali, a.s., was not just the lion of Allah. He was the light of Allah, a light that cannot be dimmed, a truth that cannot be hidden, and a love that no sword or poison can silence.